Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tea with Kimberly. Please grab your cup of tea, a journal, and pen. And I want to share with you a few of my favorite books of the moment. And I will say, too, one thing we have to keep in mind is that I tend to collect books. I have a pile here, I have a pile here, I have a pile, as you might see, on my mantle. And then I have two built-ins, and then plus a huge stack by the side of my bed. And I also have some on a mantle in my bedroom. So I have a book problem. I think of them as my little emotional support friends. Okay, so let's start with this first emotional support friend. I did read this one. Some of them I've just started or they're on the to read agenda. So this one, Ambition Monster. I really like this book. It's a memoir. I started following her on Substack, and I really just appreciate her writing style. It's quite engaging. And what I really liked about this too was the fact that she kind of walks us through her journey of becoming like really obsessed with work, right? And that was how she identified herself, right? And that's how she really felt like it gave her a sense of purpose. So I want to read this part to you, and this is from towards the end of the book, where she says, a separation from work necessitates reunion with yourself, with life. Even if the self and the life you return to are not always what you remember or what you want to see. Facing myself without the cover of my career was not what anyone would call fun. Outside of work, I'd never been the easiest person to know. And in 2 decades hiding behind busyness, I'd become more of my worst parts, impatient and demanding, selfish, and if I'm truly honest, a little bit of a bully. I was intermittently kind and compassionate. I always showed up in a crisis. I never missed an important life event. But I devoted myself to my career for so long I failed to truly see or value much else, including, most shamefully, the people in my life. So someone once told me that 80% of how you conduct yourself in relationships comes from the behavior modeled by your parents, and the other 20% comes from your own experience and stuff you read. So anyway, this is a really enjoyable book if you want an engaging memoir. This book, How to Be Authentic. So I have not yet finished it. And yet, I love the cover, but B, I love the concept. Simone de Beauvoir, please forget my French, and the quest for fulfillment. So at the start, she writes, and I underlined this, I really liked it. For Beauvoir, existence precedes essence, meaning that we exist first and then spend the rest of our lives creating who we are, our essence. She thought that there is no true self to discover, but only a vibrant self that we create through our choices. We don't discover ourselves, we make ourselves, which that just sounds so good. I can't wait to read this. Now, this book I did finish and loved it. And it's called Real Self-Care by a Doctor, Crystals, Cleanses, and Bubble Baths Not Included. This was a book we read for our wellness module in the coterie. Love this book. Now, I will say it's also it can feel a bit controversial. And it's like, don't do all the things that we traditionally think of as self-care, or not don't do those, but don't expect those to actually bring about change. And, I think that there are many ways to practice self-care, but she really goes into the importance of boundaries, taking back the reins, like recognizing the challenge of patriarchy. She has little checklists at the end of each chapter, which of course I love because I am a checklist person. And I just underlined so much of this book. It's very, very good. Real self-care. Another one on our best behavior. And I also follow her Substack, The 7 Deadly Sins and the Price Women Pay to Be Good. So she writes at the beginning, and I really liked this. I underlined this. So she talks about having conversations, and she says, as I reflected on these conversations, I came to realize that on some level, everyone is saying the same thing. We all struggle to be known, to express the truest, most tender parts of ourselves, to feel safe enough to bring our gifts to bear. We wonder, who am I? What do I want and need? How do I find my purpose and serve? Our greatest imperatives are to belong, to love, and be loved in return. Yet life gets in the way. And earlier, she had written about coming out of a session, and she says, I sat in my car, head resting on the steering wheel. I could feel myself primal and angry. Something rebellious and pissed break free. I was trying to be good. I'd always been trying to be good. I ran myself ragged, cared dutifully for my family, friends, and colleagues, punished my body so that it stayed a certain size, kept my temper in check. What would happen if I just stopped? I didn't know the answer, but in my parked car that day, I resolved to find out. I planted a tiny seed in inquiry that became the germ of this book. Its unfurling would cost me a lot, but it would give me back my life. On our best behavior. Okay, two more? Yeah, two more. Okay. I'm mostly here to enjoy myself. So I started reading this on the plane. I'm a third through. One Woman's Pursuit of Pleasure in Paris. I mean, what's not to love, right? So far she is in Paris, and it's during the pandemic, or, after we got vaccines, so 2021, and she's writing about her experiences there. So far so good. And says, when you're a woman of a certain age, you are only promised that everything will get worse. But what if everything you've been told is a lie? So another beautiful memoir. And then last but not least, this one was gifted to me after my latest hip surgery by a friend who was like, this will help you during recovery to be able to escape a little bit. My Life in France by Julia Child. And what I like about this and what she explained is everything that Julia did in her life that was really much more in her later years. I like to call and I think of midlife as the second half of life. And so it was so thoughtful of my friend, and I cannot wait to dive in. My Life in France. And many of you have probably seen the movie Julia and Julie and Julia. So good. And but yeah, this is the book kind of about the whole experience that Julia wrote. So I cannot wait to read it. So here's just a few of my overflowing collection of books. And I hope it inspires you to pick up a read, to dive in, maybe to scroll online, see what's available. I tend to buy a lot of used books when possible. So I go through thrift books or places like that so that, I get other people's older copies, and sometimes they're already underlined, which makes it nice and easy. And so, yeah, so I just shared with you 6 of the ones that are on my radar, have read, recommend, am reading, or to be read. All right, so thank you for tuning in. Again, I hope this inspires you to do a little bit of reading and to really just it's what's so fun is to immerse yourself in other people's worlds and to read about their experiences and to be inspired by them. And I hope this will help you do that. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll be back again with you very soon.